All right. Welcome, one and all, to another exciting Terran Tuesday. And looks like we have some folks waiting for us here in the chat. And we in the back end, we're talking about actually the weather, as it seems to be the universal conversation.
Indeed.
Right? It's pretty cold out there, and somebody's getting a frost quake, which I haven't heard of. Gonna have to look that up. Minus 34 when he woke up this morning. Mac Thompson, thank you for joining us. Morale
Oh,
Officer Grant,
hello, hello.
working with the dry cold out there. Yeah, it's pretty cold. Mostly for other people. I live in a desert where it's pretty hot during the summer, so we get okay weather. Frost isn't that bad at its worst, which is roughly around this time of the year when it's the coldest. So we'll see what's up. Hopefully, the weather holds up for you guys out there. We got Wrangler joining us. Thank you, Mr. Wrangler. Hail, dear sir.
Ooh.
All right. Yes, sir. What do we got here? Hi, hit that like button. Yeah, hit that like button, everybody. Share this with your friends. Tell them to join us. Call up your cousins. But today, how are you doing, dear sir, Mr. Black Knight?
Hello. Well, I am doing well. Thank you. We did some, me and a friend on Discord. We had a really early morning. We had a nice discussion about various character archetypes. I also, as it is my uh, editor day, I did some edits. I finished two chapters. Then I wrote the poem, the tanker poem for Terran Tuesday, and posted it on Substack. And I worked in the remaining time, my working time, I used it to write another short chapter for a fantasy series, which it will be posted again on Substack. It's like a really short chapters for Warrior Wednesday, and I also wrapped another scene from a chapter for my eighth book of the Star Shattered series. So all in all, it was quite the productive day. How have you been?
I have also been quite busy with a large number of things. I do writing on the side, so I got plenty of work related stuff to keep me bogged down, but also getting over the holidays a little bit, shaking them off still, um, and really just trying to catch up with my writing and try out new and exciting things out there. Sandwich things. We also got
Yeah.
what a frost quake is when the water is and in certain soils freezes quickly and expands, pops under the pressure, causing a minor seismic disturbance and thunder. That's very interesting. One of those more unique um, region-specific phenomenons, weather phenomenons, I'd imagine. Like down here, we actually get um, if the wind is hard enough and hits the right way, we'll get a gigantic sandstorm. And the way those work is like it collects, and it's just this huge orange wall of sand that just falls right over you. And for like a
Ouch.
good 5, 6 seconds, it's like you think you're on the planet of Mars. Everything is just orange, almost red, and then boom, the sand hits you, and then you're just in the middle of a sandstorm. It's quite a fascinating experience, really. Um, Probably experiencing something like this frost quake when you have no idea what it is would be would be very interesting.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yes, and it's also good to probably gain information on these things for the sake of your own literature in the future. When you're writing various in various areas to know the details of the region and
The
the
mysteries of frostquakes. That
hey,
stuff.
right. You've been writing a lot, and you mentioned character archetypes. This
Yep.
was a topic that you've decided to you thought would be pretty good. Why don't you start us off, man? Tell us
Hmm.
about character archetypes.
What can I say that's not been said already to
Right,
death?
or some of your
Discuss?
favorites. What are your some of your
Maybe.
favorites and the ones you don't like?
Generally, these things, just like the tropes, they exist for a reason because they work. They've been, I mean, they've been working since it's like the first, probably the first quote unquote caveman began telling stories, um, and with time things evolved, modified, grew. Certain archetypes became more elaborate, and it's I don't think we'll have enough time to list like all the variations of literally everything. So just like you mentioned, we probably should talk about our favorite archetypes and our least favorite. Oh, and by the way, Miss Snow will be a bit late. She has a fire emergency, from what I read. Um, so we'll hope that everything is fine and she can coordinate stuff and no one gets hurt. So let's say what can we mention about the character archetypes. Um, for example, some of my the core uh, old archetypes would be the warrior, the king, the healer, the magician, thief, which, as far as most fiction goes, you have variation of everywhere, uh, with twists, with your own twist, with the author's own twist, um, and it's understandable to that these have been used for since forever, because as I mentioned, they work. And of course, on a much deeper level, most humans quite enjoy certain, if not most of these archetypes, because they are a part of the human reality, human existence. We all know thieves, we know warriors, we know kings, broadly speaking, healers, etc., etc. So it's it's understandable that we would like stories with these archetypes. Of course, everyone has their own special little tropes which they like, and of course things that they do not like. But generally, um, if an author decides to write fiction, that would be best if they made use of the quite well working archetypes. Of course, they should put their own twist on some of them, if not all of them. Yeah, yes, I agree. I agree, Wrangler. Velin is um, as far as the warrior archetype goes, he is an excellent example of this archetype. And far from the useless, which is it is useless practice of deconstructing these archetypes and replacing them with things which do not work universally, do not work because they are unnatural, like the so-called girl boss, for example, which women cannot stand. They dislike this archetype even more than the men. But let's say, talking about the warrior archetype, this is probably one of the most, like, the earliest archetype, story archetype, character archetype, which it can be both good and evil. Good in the sense that this is the protector of the community, the protector of the village, protector of the home, the defender of the castle. Let's say, be a knight, could be a soldier, be a mercenary even. And then you have the evil one, which is the invader, the pillager, the enslaver, the grapist, if you will, who comes and steals your wife and your daughter and your child and sells them into slavery. And in this regard, if we're talking about characters of our own creation, indeed, Velin the Authorian. He is probably one of my best warrior archetype characters, which is probably how should I put it? I worked on it for a long time because I wanted it to be not just any warrior. It had to have a bit of a Conan-esque feeling, and also the core rules and traditions and tropes of the Star Shattered universe had to be preserved, because he is inhabiting this universe, and he is a heroic warrior who is a protector, a vanquisher of slavers and such, and himself being born in pretty much slavery, crushing slavery. He he dislikes it with a passion. He even had his own shackles reforged into his blade, his long bayonet, which is he uses attached to his railgun rifle. Of course, yes, I know. This is one of the twists. Um, he is not quite the traditional warrior with a sword or shield, or a knight with an armor and a great sword or something. But of course, people often forget that um, there are tropes for everything, and the character archetypes can and should be modified to fit their respective universes, and to be what the greater glory of the storytelling goal is about. Otherwise, yes, of course you can copy something. You can copy somebody else if they did an exceedingly great job, um, and we can give many examples about that. Let's say The Witcher is you know is a bit of a copy. Um,
Yeah, it's an Elric copy.
yeah, yeah. So mm, I'll reserve my other favorite archetypes for later. What about yours?
Well, you brought up the warrior archetype. I'm going to start off the other way around because, like, actually, let's start off with this one. You see, we have seen the strong female archetype get ruined in the last 10 years. I say that because it's actually been around for quite some time and it's been done well in a large number of series in the past. Conan himself has run into some strong female women. Um, and we see what happens when you take an archetype and it goes bad because you just kind of force it. An archetype in itself, what makes it so good is it's kind of universal. You can really layer on a lot on top of an archetype and flesh out a very unique and interesting character. An archetype is almost like a base to start from. And um, the one that I seen get kind of stale when I was growing up in a lot of the media I was consuming was genuinely the warrior archetype because that was in a lot of the stuff when I was growing up. Just a lot of warrior archetype stuff that followed very formulaic stories that, much like what we see today with the strong female character, kind of just became the character itself. It just had this base layer of attributes placed upon all of them, and you can kind of always guess how the story was and where the story was going to go and where it was going to end. And maybe there'd be one thing here that was a bit different, or one thing there that was a little off, a unique, I should say, but overall all the same. So for me, you asked me what my favorite one is. I'm starting off with the one I like the least. And I'm not talking about Conan either because I didn't get introduced to Conan till much later. But the media that I was consuming a lot of was action hero movies of the 90s. And they're all kind of the same after a while. But when you don't have the internet and minimal media access, because I was kind of raised on a ranch, we didn't have a video store near me. You got what you can get, and it was just a lot of action hero stuff. So that archetype got really old for me growing up. But as I've been exposed to different medias, I see it kind of, I see it again, but done well or in ways that it just, you can see how it accents a character, or the character itself fleshes out the archetype and makes it their own. And I mentioned Conan, and that's a very good example of kind of like the barbarian hero warrior
Yes.
archetype. He's a real freaking great one. But I have two other favorite archetypes. That's the one I don't necessarily like, but I've seen it redeemed in the forms of Conan, which is what I hope to see in the future with strong female characters, because we've had great female characters of the past, like Galadriel, the real one from the real Lord of the
Yep.
Rings,
Yep.
is a very powerful character.
Well, she is probably one of the most powerful in
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly, and
And they ruined her. They
what makes
ruined her.
what makes that character so
Ah,
great is a strong female character. You can't forget what makes a female a female. There's a form of elegancy, a feminine touch, and Galadriel wields that. She's powerful. She knows she's powerful. She doesn't have to show you she's powerful, or sort of wield the power like a hammer. That's just I that's just
swing a
overdoing.
sword.
It's actually doing a lot of injustice to the archetype itself. It really is. So we've been seeing a lot of injustice being done to this archetype, which has been done great in the past, and uh, getting past that, one archetype that I do like, which I've also seen a lot coming into media these days, kind of making it stale, and that's the anti-hero. I really do enjoy the anti-hero because of the
Uh,
it's just like, I'm a thriller fan. I love thrillers. I love thrills in my books, thrills in my movies, thrills in my comic books, thrills in my food. I'm a sandwich. Um, and it's just like the the anti-hero is a perfect character for the thrills, to get right into the action. He's the guy that's up against the wall. He's not a hero, so he's willing to do some dirty things, but overall his deeds usually benefit the good, if not at least don't harm the good to a magnificent degree. The anti-hero is one that I've really enjoyed. One that anti-hero that comes to mind, I forget the character's name, but it's actually a movie, a Mel Gibson movie where he plays a gangster who gets slighted, is assumed dead, and then just comes back X amount of years later.
I remember.
It's
I
called
watched it.
pay. It's called Payback.
Yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
character's
I
name is
watched it.
Porter.
Yeah.
Porter, completely slide through the entire thing. An excellent anti-hero. It's basically him against the world, which is, I love those stories when done correctly. But another anti-hero that's been done kind of like overdone is Deadpool, I believe, because
Mm.
he doesn't really carry that me against the world vibe. It's usually him conquering the world, which kind of makes him a bit of a Mary Sue. So it's kind of so on that one. But I really enjoy a good anti-hero, and in the '90s they did them pretty well, and they didn't overdo them too much like they did their warrior characters.
Hmm. Hmm. The anti-heroes.
Yeah, which ones do you not like? What are some that kind of make you roll your eyes a little bit or are hard to get
Hmm.
into?
Well, Gary stews and Mary stews usually, um, although you could make like you could make them work. Let's say, um, for example, I'll give you
Yeah.
One Punch Man,
All right.
who is actually like he has godlike ability, but he is written in such a way, at least at least during the first season, um, that yes, of course, he finishes every villain with just one punch, and this is it's constructed. Everything is constructed in such a way that this is a tragedy. That's he's depressed because of it. But regarding anti-heroes, it was And was that movie? What was that? Sin City? Was it Sin City with that Mickey Rourke?
Yeah, the black and white film
Yeah, 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 yeah. This one.
in
That was
the comic
nice.
book.
Yeah, that was nice.
That
That
was
was
actually a pretty, yes,
that
very
was
in
nice.
depth character.
It was really nice. Mm, I myself, I have written, I think, a couple of anti-heroes, but most of them were NPC characters for campaigns, for D&D campaigns, and I loved role playing them. But perhaps in my books I have too few anti-heroes. Maybe yes. There was this Mac. Yeah, you can say that Mac is an anti-hero. Mac, as Wrangler mentioned, Mac is a space biker, biker with an A, not E, because this is part of their slang. So the space bikers, they are what passes for hardened criminals in Terran space, and they are indeed criminals. But it's it's what they do with their criminality that actually, as you mentioned earlier, that's like it ends up benefiting society. Well, not other societies, but their own society, because they will steal, they will rob, they will raid, they will kill, they will kidnap, and they will destroy stuff, they will blow shit up, and in many ways they capture this crazy rebellious nature of the really dangerous biker gangs, who they do not care. uh, they just care about their club, their own club, and they would do whatever crimes. It's just that our bikers are actually anti-heroes, and they they like to um, they like to use their criminality sometimes like as a shield for their own guys, their own the other Terrans, um, and it causes situation like it. Sometimes you have situations them offering to protect some place like some colony or something, uh, just like, for example, the mafia would do. It's like, yeah, yeah, you're now part of our territory and we'll protect you. And yeah, they'll actually protect them, and they'll get paid. They get some stuff done for them in exchange of that protection. And they'll still commit crime. They just won't commit crime on Terran territory, because that would be counterproductive. Um, and, and most recently, without delving too much about the bikers, because even as I'm talking about them, I kind of forget some things, and other things I don't want to drop some too many spoilers. Um, but the last thing I'm going to say about them is that they have a specific language, which is various levels of 5 levels of very it varies from easy to understand to like supremely hard to understand slang, which is like the level 5, the high biker speak. And it depends. It depends um, whom are they speaking to, and what is it about, what kind of an issue are they discussing. And in most cases, if a biker is using normal speak, it's not using the specific different levels of slang that they're using in specific situations. It means that either they're going to kill you, or you are maybe a really close friend.
Oh boy,
Yeah,
I wonder which one.
yeah, yeah.
I guess so. You'd probably know if he's a stranger.
Well, um, I think I think in the books it began with like with their obsession with deceiving aliens, and then that worked really well. It served them well, so they have built this image of vicious criminals, which they are, and they actually are. But they kind of enhanced it, and aliens, especially the certain enemy aliens, they consider these biker gangs, biker clubs, to be like the most vicious of them all, like the really deadly criminals, which basically you can't you just can't it's almost impossible to negotiate with them. It's really rare. They're like almost they're like a force of nature. They will just come, destroy everything, slaughter everyone, loot everything, and then just fly away. Right
Raiding
away.
culture, huh?
Yeah, but in some cases they have been known to receive to like they've taken payment in order not to raid certain enemies, but it's exceedingly rare. For example, slavers, they won't like they will not receive payment from slavers or narco cartels or some. They will not get payment from them. Like they will, or tribute. It's like no. They have certain enemies which they cannot stand. They're just they just or others whom they know that it's like it's better to just go there and kill them and take their money, take their stuff, because they're weaker, and they just do it. Why settle for like a third of what they can get?
Very interesting stuff you got going on there, man, with your very expanded space world. Which pieces of literature can people find these characters in?
All of the throughout the Star Shatter series, pretty much all the books. The Mac is in there, and you have descriptions and scenes with showing and telling you about the biker culture, the Terra space biker culture, including their raiding, their trading, their looting, and even their marriage rituals and traditions. Because, as you know, bikers, especially the US and the Americas, they have their own traditions. And I made sure to borrow some, but for the most part, I built a unique set of cultural tropes and everything. Let's say they have, especially on Mars. Mars is considered holy for them, and it's like a mecca where they hold a special rally, which is like a regular occurrence, and a lot of the clubs, especially those who can, some who can't, who are too far away, like raiding other alien planets and doing stuff. But those who can, they try to at least send a few people there to participate in the events. And yeah, it's to the normal human, to the normal Terran, or the alien tourist. They look maybe a bit intimidating, dangerous. But to someone who tries to mess with them, they are probably the last thing they'll see.
Very interesting. Kind of reminds me of the old Native American raiding culture.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah. There are some elements. There are some elements from this. Some, but not too much, because it's, it would be overwhelming. Like you can't do like a kitschy stuff and drop way too many things, like stick too many things and expect everything to work. No. There is a limit. But yes, perhaps the bikers and Mac, they are probably some of the
space bikers.
Yep, the most beloved anti-heroes in Star Shutter, in the Star Shutter universe.
Right, nice. Very cool. We'll have to do an episode in the future about we may have done one in the past, but machinery. If we have, we'll have to retouch back on it, and the in-depth workings of fictional machinery, because there's some cool stuff in my own world that touches a lot on various forms of working mechanical devices. Purely theoretical, of course, for fictional world.
Yeah, they have they have these like highly advanced motorcycles who most often they use the Tesla engine, but it's not Elon Musk's Tesla stuff. It's like the real Tesla. And these bikes and their cars and their trucks, because they have bikes, cars, and trucks. Without delving into too much details, they operate because they have a reactor. They have a fucking reactor in them. They don't use batteries.
We got the reactors. Yeah, we'll definitely touch more on that in the future. We'll definitely put it down, along with some other awesome topics. But getting back to archetypes, I was saying how I was going to share another one that I actually enjoy, and another archetype that I enjoy. That I find that's kind of like more of a side archetype. Like not you don't see your main character often taking this role, though you do, because that's the beauty of archetypes. They're very universal. You can apply them as a good starting point um, for a story. Like let's say, for instance, I know I'm going on a little bit of a tangent, but we got a little time to kill, so tangents are good. Your fish out of water can work very good as in like a character coming to a new land in a large majority of ways, or just being thrusted into a position he's never been in a land he's very familiar with. But getting back on point, um, one of my favorite archetypes is the mercenary archetype.
Oh.
Whenever they pop up, I'm always kind of interested in the mercenary, whether they're the gruff know-it-all who you can tell is going to just be the dispensable guy that dies 10 minutes into the battle, or uh, the one who slowly becomes the hero over time, or even the one who slowly becomes the villain over time, and then or when you can't necessarily tell which way the character is going to go. Like I said, I like thrills, and this is a very thrilling character that you can really do a lot with. As I previously mentioned, you have archetypes are great starting points, and they're a great way to not only explore characters but also use them as a sort of guiding point for where you want your character to go. I actually have this character that's very much a mercenary based archetype, but then you start digging into the character's life. You're introduced to him as a faceless, nameless character who's good with a gun and good with a sword and is just on guard duty. Somebody tries to steal something, and this somebody seems to outwit and outdo every other basic uniformed guard. But this one high class, high paid mercenary pinpoints them out of a crowd, hunts them down, gets the job done, and then at the end of a day where you just see him being that robotic soldier mercenary type, he hangs up his coat and then he takes care of his mother who's ill and who's sick. And then you see, okay, the other side of him. And then he turns out to be kind of vulnerable, very reserved character, loves telling jokes, has an actual personality, but then he puts the uniform back on, becomes the mercenary again, and then goes into a completely different world. That's what's good about this character is it's a character, or an archetype I should say, that can be easily used to cross boundaries between worlds, particularly one of a very militaristic type, and then one that's completely on the other end of things, in a multitude of ways. Because, say, if you can do the soldier or the warrior, um, if they're not like Conan, if they're a basic soldier, they're usually bound by creeds. So when you're in their personal lives, um, they're, uh, it's much more complex to delve into, say, vices in a dare I say it, shallower manner. When you have a mercenary character, right off the back, there's almost this vibe that they give off where they lean sort of in between the good and the bad, and you can see them easily diving into more of the more obscene things, which is kind of how I explored this character who's wrestling in between his professional life and his personal obligations to a lot of personal individuals in his life, and how they just like it provides this centerpiece struggle that starts to seep into both of them. And then, of course, you get to the moment in the character's life when everything comes crumbling down and he has to use his professional skills to sort of save the people in his personal life. This story I'm talking about, this character, all this is still being penned and written but subscribe to worldwithoutendlore.substack.com because sooner or later that story is going to come out if you find that character even slightly interesting.
Ooh, it does sound interesting. Hmm. Let me think. What?
Yeah, well, so what are some of your favorites? Or what are even some that maybe you don't consider your favorite, but probably
hmm,
appear in your writing a frequent amount of time?
I have, especially in the city, the main cities. There is uh, they are friends of Mac, of the titular space biker character, um, and it's a mercenary group um, called the Dead Comet Legion. I mean, they're kind of they're in the gray, even though they later work for the Terrans. But they have like they've been working for different crime bosses, protecting their illicit activities, certain areas of space because they had to survive. Especially, they had to procure various substances because they were infected with a specific genetic virus, which was designed to keep them in line, keep them obedient to their one of their previous masters, which they eventually rebelled and killed, murdered, and then escaped. Um, and I will not say what said illicit substance is. That would be spoiler a bit too big. But these mercs, they in some cases they do not like they committed piracy even in order to procure the funds that they needed to produce that substance to continue living and they and their families. As you said, they are forced to use their professional skills to ensure the survival of their families. And they have this ship, which was once a big lumbering passenger transport vessel before they modified it. So it is their mercenary company is like really old. It's like probably over 500 years old. They've been living and existing. They're like their bloodlines have been existing with this genetic virus for a long time. So this ship, it's been almost like their mothership, and it's a bit strange, that ship. If you've seen, there was an older anime, it's called Outlaw Star, where the spaceships have hands. They have like
Yeah, I remember that one.
robotic hands. Yeah. So this one, it has like uh, a few large hands that were used to capture other ships. So that's how they survived. Um, and they were forced to do this. So perhaps this is uh, one of the mercenary groups most well known in the Star Shuttle series, and which is
Nice.
quite gray. That's
In morality.
Yeah, well, that's that because the substance that they needed to survive was really
Uh-huh.
expensive, so they needed lots and lots and lots of money.
Ah, righteous. Nice. Yeah, and once again, which literature can people find these in?
In the main series, the
Yeah.
main Star Shutter series. Yeah.
All right. Nice. And all right, we have a question. Hey, just a thought. With all the movies, TV series, and sci-fi books, how hard is it to write your own original stories? Um, I think the one phrase that gets thrown around a lot, and I think it's because it's generally true, is that there is no technically original story. But often I try to keep my stories at least refreshing by adding in maybe some elements you otherwise wouldn't necessarily see. Maybe blending genres, blending locations. Like I have a story. One of my recent ones I've released is actually about a vampire outbreak in a cyberpunk city, and um, your main character unlocks the secrets to invisibility, and he's invisible. Mix that all together, it sounds pretty
I remember
original.
that.
Yes, yes, it
This
sounds
is a great
pretty
one.
original, refreshing. Something a little on the edge, but every single aspect thereof is really, you've seen cyberpunk stories, you've seen vampire stories, you've seen the Invisible Man before. Not necessarily what 100% original, but what can you do when you blend those together? And try to strike a balance of intrigue and horror. But yeah, what do you think? What's your answer to this, dear sir?
Yeah, I agree with you. To have this like your own balance, because everything is pretty much told. We're just telling the same story with variations, and probably our characters are a bit different. Probably they talk a bit different. Probably the places where we send them on quests are a bit different. And maybe the universes they live in, they populate, are a bit different. And that's what's important. It's you cannot, well, this is probably one of the main reasons why modern Hollywood is like producing such schlock, because they assume that they're like so super genius and so highly intellectual that they could deconstruct all the ancient storytelling tropes and all the ancient character archetypes, and they could like make it different. Well, in the process they just made it lame and boring and unnatural. And in our case, we we know we're just human. We're not genius Hollywood script writers. We're not godly sages of legend. We're just men. um, and we're just trying. We're learning how to tell enjoyable, entertaining story. It might not be perfect. Well, definitely, it's not going to be super perfect. But the we are putting our twist on it, on everything, pretty much, if we can. And it need not be a giant twist. It need not be a deconstruction. And in many cases, it's an actual reconstruction. Uh, because what they have destroyed, we are bringing it back. Of course, we are bringing back things that work and that are interesting. We're not trying to fix the schlock that the crap that they've been churning out. But yeah, You know what I'm talking about. It's just not worth it.
Yeah, yeah. They're there's always a balance to all of this. Whether you're trying to make an original story or retelling an older story, there's you need decent writing, good performances, even if you just focus on the writing, because we're authors. There's a balance to your characters. There's what's the term I'm looking for? Yeah,
There is the spot as
kind of. Yeah,
some
it's like
say.
it's
And
like
you feel it.
your reader's suspension of disbelief, so to say. Like you want your characters to be engrafted by your world, and there are certain elements that if you just way overdo it, let's take the girl boss we see who's just so perfect and has to put everybody in their place 24/7. May it be the peasant or the king alike, they can never be wrong. That's way overdone for a character. You put them in any kingdom whatsoever, they're just gonna completely stick out from the world around them, and it's going to lose your readers, it's going to lose the people who are watching your films. Yeah, it's going to lose the comic book readers. It's going to lose everything because
Especially the comic book readers.
yes, well, yeah, because there's not much.
And they think the comic book readers are stupid. I
Yeah,
mean, they think that all of us are stupid, but especially, oh yeah, the comic book readers.
definitely. Those ones, why so terrible in the form of comic books is, in my opinion, it's very visual. So a lot of these things are hard to convey through visual. So what they often do is just either clog up the text or
Oh
just
yeah,
waste what precious dialogue space they have with
which
absolutely
is super
horrendous
precious in
dialogue.
the comic books. Yeah,
Yes,
it's a
horrendous
crime.
dialogue
Ugh.
and it's horrendous dialogue and terrible character motivations, which is kind of what aids the archetype, and the archetype aids in return, and so it's kind of like a principal standard where you can go from is the character motivation, like Wrangler said earlier, the reluctant hero. What's motivation of a reluctant hero? It's that other people are kind of pressing that motivation upon them to be this thing, to go do the thing,
You are
um,
the chosen
accomplish the
one.
quest. Yeah, the
Mhm.
chosen one who cannot back
You are a
down.
wizard, Harry.
Yes. Which one am I thinking of right now off the top of my head? Well, yeah, that's a good one. Harry Potter. You're a wizard now. One of my favorite reluctant heroes, which actually does blend with another archetype, which would be the fish out of water, comes from a movie called The Forbidden Kingdom, which was actually an old school Disney movie now, which makes me feel old because that came
Hmm.
out when I don't remember how old I was, but I enjoyed it. It was kind of like a retelling of the Journey to the West tale with a little bit of a
Ah.
Western spin. It had both Jet Li and Jackie Chan in it. I enjoyed the film.
Hmm.
It was very much a character gets taken from his world and shoved back into ancient feudal Japan where all these legends are coming to life. And he is the chosen one who's going to wake the Monkey King and return his staff to him.
Ah,
So
yes, I
it's you,
remember
it's
this
your
one.
reluctant hero mixed with your fish out of water and a bit of your hero's journey as well, which is kind of like your hero
Oh, yeah.
reluctant hero.
That's I think let me see what was that story. I have one story which um it's not complete. Just the first part, the first chapter is and it's about a kid, a teenager who never he's not he's reluctant. He is the reluctant hero. Actually, he has no intention of becoming a military man like his father. His father was a mercenary, a Terran mercenary. for a private military corporation, which is called White Mountain Corporation, and they heavily mechanized, and by mechanized we're talking mecha there. And so this kid was like, well, yeah, I know how much my dad suffered. I don't want to be I don't want to be a soldier, but I'll be a businessman. I'll be an engineer. I learned how to build mechs. I learned how to modify them. I'll do this. Like I'll make money. I'll be rich. I'll help them other like military guys. I'll build stuff for them. I'll innovate weapons and such. So this is how, like, this is going to be my contribution to the safety of everyone. And I'll make a shit ton of money. And he has his, like, all of these dreams that, yes, I'm going to build that, I'm going to create that, I'm going to upgrade this and that and everything. And his family is supportive. His brothers, his father, his mom. But stuff happen, like in all stories like this, with especially with the reluctant heroes. Things happen, and he's thrust into this. He's basically forced of becoming a mercenary. He uses his father's old contacts, and he basically sells him his expertise, his well, not like his giant expertise, but his talents, considerable talents, so to speak. He doesn't have like huge experience, but he has talent, and he sells his talent to that private military corporation, which is not like, they're not intent on exploiting him, but they will get what, like, every credit they paid for, every single one. So yeah, I think I should try and complete this one. That was designed to be a series for a certain magazine, but it didn't cut mustard.
Here's a question for you. Do you go into your writing when you're starting a new piece and you're thinking about your characters? Do you think about the sort of character archetype that they're going to fulfill? What kind of character they're going to be? And do you what do you borrow from other characters to help flesh them out?
Yes, I have. I usually make first I make character notes about them, just like the outlines, what they look like, what is their like their specific manner of expression, and what is their way of dealing with problems. And then I if they're really like a recurring character, they're not like a tertiary or secondary character, I make detailed character sheet for them with equipment, with items, item lists, and skills and feats and everything, almost like a well, not almost, it's pretty much a D&D character sheet. And it helps. It really helps, especially to me, helps. And then you have, starting from that first, that original character note, you have their modified core archetype with different added um, bits to it. At least one additional bit to tweak the archetype, and at most three additional, like no more than three, because otherwise it gets like too twisted, too changed. Let's say one of the uh, anti-hero archetypes characters that they have. This is someone that has no name. He calls himself the Answer, and it's a little nod to one certain character, which is called the Question from the Justice League. I don't know if you, I think you know about him.
Yeah, I know DC.
Yeah, it's like the Question is a conspiracy theorist, but the answer is not a conspiracy theorist. The answer is crazy. Is is like the base archetype is the Joker archetype, the Jester, but there is the insane character archetype and the warrior archetype. Like these are the secondary bits intertwined in the, like, changing the main one, twisting the main one. And he is an alien. He's not human. He's an alien. Has some cybernetic implants and specific gear, and he is quite insane. But this is like this specific insanity I was going for, and was if you are aware of the character Vast from Far Cry 3, who is a villain. And the actor who plays him, I forgot how he was, who he was, like his name, but he was really good, and he had this line about the definition of insanity.
Yeah.
So I was going for this kind of madness, a specific kind of madness, and I achieved it. So yeah, this is the
And which story is this again?
this is from the second anthology. There is a full novelette with him. My second anthology, which is the Blood of Tyrants.
All right.
Yeah, you can find him there. He's I am really happy with how he came out on paper. I think I only made like tiny mistakes, tiny errors, which are inevitable, but all the primary character archetype points were spot on. I don't know if I'm not sure if Wrangler read it, but I think Moral Officer Gran read it. Read the second my second anthology. She can say more.
Nice. Yeah, you've definitely released plenty of literature, so I'm sure you've really explored a large number of different character archetypes.
Yeah. What about the mage, by the way?
The mage.
Do you have your favorite, or probably because like the shaman also goes under the same, like,
Yeah, very similar. They very
Yep.
yeah.
oh, they're the same. applicable.
Basically the same. Yeah, probably just aesthetically different, really.
Slight differences,
Very much so.
minor.
Yes. Favorite mages? Ooh, that's difficult because, like you said, it's a very that's a lot more.
It's wide.
It's very wide. You
Yeah.
cast a wide net because Jedi's are technically mages as well.
Merlin, for example, which
Merlin's
is like
definitely a classic.
who
I
kicked the
always actually I really enjoyed the Merlin character. Um, that type of mage with wisdom
the
and
Archmage,
yes, the
the
Archmage.
Grand Mage.
He knows what he's doing. That one's always very fun. I also like the blending of mages because in my own world, there's like an entire civilization kingdom that
Yeah,
is revolves around the use of. Well, they don't
that,
call it
that's
magic
why that's why I
very
asked.
much. So yeah, and it's kind of broken down into different. I don't want to say houses, but orders broken down into different orders, and they all serve their own separate purposes. And that's kind of a way, like, if you're going to add in magic into a world, you have to think about how that system is going to affect the world around it. And depending on the story you got going, you have to kind of put caps on how powerful your character is because I think like one we brought up before is Harry Potter with time travel. They introduce
Ah,
time
yeah.
travel and then they go on an
And they
assortment of
forgot
very
about it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, they go on an assortment of very
Uh,
dangerous quests where that may have been proven useful and they
they
never
have
use it
saved
at all.
lives.
So it's important when you're introducing the character or this sort of mystical element to really think about its limitations.
That goes
Yeah,
goes like the same goes with high technology
yeah, yeah,
and the fucking MacGuffins. Like if you're yeah okay you can use you know like it depends. But please do have like some consistent uh, boundaries for the fucking
yeah.
MacGuffins.
It's almost like when you introduce. Um,
Remember the fake Star Wars like with that fucking dagger.
I didn't see that episode. I
You
got
you
off the
haven't
Star Wars.
lost much. You
Yeah, I got
haven't
off the Star Wars train early when
ah
I seen
ah
the
just let me tell you.
unfolding
So
disaster.
they were going to find this dagger. They were looking for this I think it was a Sith dagger, and they found it in a muddy hole under the desert. Don't ask me. A muddy hole under the desert. They found the fucking dagger, and they went to the planet where the second Death Star crashed, which it shouldn't have crashed because it pretty much evaporated. Like the explosion was, but let's say some part of it crashed, and then they twist like they tweak the dagger, and the dagger is actually aligned with the ruined part, like the debris of the Death Star, and it points their way.
Yeah, that's terrible. But
It's
you know
horrible.
what? I think the latest Star Wars is a great example of what not to do on
Yep,
almost every single aspect of storytelling.
every single one.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is because Moral Officer Grant asked us earlier about originality, and we kind of spoke about how there's not much original you can do, but kind of put
They
like
couldn't even
refreshing.
copy
Yeah,
themselves. They
you
couldn't
could put
even copy
refreshing.
themselves.
You could put refreshing takes on things if you're exploring an existing universe. A great thing you can do is introduce the elements that people may have had questions about, and take the story you just said. Like they go to some planet where the wreckage is. Like they've been to millions of different planets, or millions, I'm exaggerating there. They've been on a bunch of different planets all over Star Wars. And they take us to another desert planet because I remember seeing that in the trailer. I think, that's not only non original, but you're literally just reminiscing other planets in your own universe that people have to ask the question, is this a different place we haven't been to before? Um, which is not what you want to hear. What they should have done is actually had make them search a wreckage while wearing spacesuits, because I'm not sure if you know this. There's not really a lot of like spacesuit travel going on in Star Wars. That would have
Oh
been kind of
no,
cool to
no.
see
It was just
characters in
like I mean,
spacesuits.
I
In
think even
suits, yeah,
in Star Trek there is more spacesuits. There are more spacesuits than
yeah.
yeah.
You barely see any spacesuits in Star Wars. I think it would have been
It's
cool
lame.
to have like a little, a little romp searching a derelict spaceship
Oh
looking
wait,
for something.
wait! They fucked that up too. In the what was that? The Ashoka series. They screwed the spacesuit thing. They
Did
fucked it
they?
up. Yeah, they fucked it up. They had them jump around moving spaceship without any connection to the spaceship, like jumping around while they were being actively strafed by starfighters.
Ah.
Yeah, it was lame. It
Well,
was
that's
lame as
another
fuck.
issue that the Star Wars series has is it doesn't know when to slow down a lot of the time. Like they often put their characters in very interesting and unique,
Lucas
positions,
knew.
but then it goes straight to action. I'm
Lucas.
talking on, yeah, the old Lucas ones. In fact, I'd say the old Lucas ones had a lot of the opposite issues. They didn't know when to pick it up enough at times. Like, all right, come on, Lucas. It's been going 40 minutes. Have something happen here. Talking about trade routes. Talk about politics.
Yeah, yeah. The
Yeah,
shit.
yeah. I mean, nothing's perfect, but nothing gets worse that I have seen lately. There's always could be worse than the latest
I
Star Wars. In fact,
I forced myself to watch some
yeah.
of them, but I couldn't. The
Well,
last
I'm gonna
one.
write down. We're gonna explore later. We're gonna have a whole episode on is
Mm.
the many egregious writing sins of the Star Wars. What do they call it? The is there what do they call these new three ones sequels? The sequel trilogy?
Yeah, the sequel
Is this
trilogy.
okay? So this is a sequel trilogy. Okay, the
Yeah.
many egregious sins of the sequel trilogy, writing sins of the sequel trilogy. We're going
Oh
to
boy.
talk about that later
Oh boy.
on later episodes.
Oh boy.
We'll bring some people in on that one because I feel like there's a lot to talk about, and many people have a lot to say. And it's all going to be all about their writing sins, what they did wrong, and where you could do it better, which is when it comes to like Star Wars, man, that's not that hard. It's a book on these new Star Wars on what not to do. 101, the movies.
They literally had shit ton of standard universe books, but they scrapped. It's like, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, they
Because the problem, the one of the main reasons why they scrapped them was because not like because there were bad books. I mean, there were some bad books. I haven't read all of them, but there were some books which weren't the greatest. But the problem for the idiots from Disney was that there were really good books, and more like all of that writing in these books at was far exceeding anything the morons from Disney could have ever created. So that's why they had to scrap them. Had to say,
that's
"Oh, it's no longer canon; it doesn't exist," because they are incapable of creating anything interesting.
Yeah, that's a shame too, because when you have something pre-written for you that fans already like, it's almost like a cheat code of writing. It saves you a ton of time having to create everything from scratch. You can take this, like fans like it. Let's just do it justice. Start from here, turn it into a script. You can turn it into a movie, and then you can save all the archetypes because Star Wars has a lot of archetypes in there, a really lot of different archetypes in there, and they kind of did all of them injustice along the way. It's the Nightmare series, which is ironic because if you think about it, when it comes to science fiction, like Star Wars is the face of sci-fi. It really is.
Yeah, it's the modern face of sci-fi.
Yeah, yeah, it's and then and now it's also the what not to do. Yeah, the magnificent shame of Star Wars. It's going to come from this channel soon. We're gonna have a
Yeah,
long conversation. I feel like we can all say a lot, and it's gonna be all about the writing.
what
Because
was that show where they did the spacesuits well?
talk about spacesuits and how
Yeah,
yours work. Because I need some water. I need to grab a water. I'll be right back.
yeah. As far as spacesuits go, I did, of course, I did some research, and in space, mm, just as Wrangler mentions, like there is no sound in space. There is a sound in your own spacesuits because you have air, but outside the spacesuit, no. So um, you can't even see beams unless you have scanners. Like if you have sensors, you can see the beams. But unless otherwise, no. And your spacesuits, in many cases, the spacesuits they have a limited operational time period of time uh, before you really have to go back to the ship. And it's energy, mostly it's energy, because space is cold, and you need the heating, otherwise you're going to freeze to death in your suit. You're just gonna become an icicle. um, I hope everything is well too.
She should be all right.
Should be fine. I mean, she's a controller. She's a in command
Yeah,
and control on her radio. She's just like,
yeah. There's
go
currently
there.
there's a fire going on, and she's in the command and control position, kind of updating them on the weather. So she's physically all right. But if you want to send prayers her way for the firefighters out there, she's related to a few of them, and she
Yeah.
said it is a kind of a deadly one out there. So I'm sure that she'd appreciate it, to say the least.
So yeah, light needs to hit. Yeah, when they hit, you can see like the blips. Otherwise, you need the scanners to see the beams. So in the way I wrote about the spacesuits is that yes, high tech spacesuits are awesome, but they have a limited operational time. They are not invulnerable. You have shielding, you have radiation shielding, because you have all kinds of radiation in space. You also have armor plating, because you have micro meteors and all sorts of shit, and of course there will be someone who's shooting at you. And of course you have fuel. You have integrated micro engines in most spacesuits, and you need the energy for your life support, as I mentioned, to cycle the air and then heat your suit so you don't freeze to death. And some suits, not all, but some suits, they have an exoskeleton, especially the military ones. And you get the picture. You're almost like the Iron Man, almost. But the realistic thing about the Iron Man is that he has almost unlimited fuel, and he can fly forever without wearing a huge fuel tank uh, strapped on his back, which is like, I know it's Hollywood, but in Star Shuttle the spacesuits, they you can do a lot, but you can do it for a short period of time. And the battles that they wage, they fight in space. They are mostly atop the hulls of spaceships. starships.
Oh, interesting.
They are fighting for hull superiority first. Um, and some ships, like especially warships, they have bunkers on top of them, so the crewmen can, um, in their spacesuits, they can fight from a protected position.
Righteous.
Yeah. So
So you can find all that in the Star Shatter series, everybody. A well
yeah.
thought out, well crafted universe with multiple pieces of literature already released and for years to pick up. You can actually see that we have a link down there, an Amazon link for Star Shatter, as well as one for RH Snow. But we are 5 minutes away from hitting the end of the live stream button. Black Knight, what are your final thoughts on archetypes, on everything we talked tonight, and where can people find you, and what are you currently working on?
So as for the final thoughts, I think I touched upon it earlier, but don't be afraid to use the archetypes, the existent archetypes. Don't be afraid to make them your own. Just don't subvert and deconstruct them, because we've already seen and we've been demonstrated that plenty of times that it doesn't work. Unnatural things do not work. They are boring. People don't want them. People don't like them. Maybe like a tiny sliver of the population may like them, but the bulk of the people, no. So don't be afraid to use the normal good old tropes. Put your own twist on them. Put a few twists on them. Um, Innovate. Make your own modifications. Like go crazy. Mix the genres. Do stuff. Do interesting new stuff. Um, and that's that. As for where you can find me, you can find me on Amazon. You can find all of my books on Amazon. The Star Shatter books, including the two anthologies, Mandate of Sword and Railgun, and the second one, the newest one, which came last year, the Blood of Tyrants. My brand new fantasy book, Lord of Bones. You can also find it on Amazon. And my two novellas, short novellas, Colonesque novellas about Valen Doltoren, which I mentioned early on the stream. We can also find them on Amazon. And then the serialized stories on my Substack, The Black Knight. Every week, additionally to the Science Fiction Friday stories, the Vault Your Own Adventure story, I will be working and publishing working on and publishing a new fantasy story in another fantasy universe of mine. It's the world of Cart or Cart, which is not going to be about your own adventure story. It's going to be a serialized story again, which should different episodes should pop up pretty much every week.
Excellent. That sounds really cool, and it sounds like you got quite a roster of literature people can tear into. If you haven't already, check it out. And for myself, I am James Esparza. I'm a living sandwich, somehow finds the means to write. And you can find out all my short stories that I write in the unique universe at worldwithoutendlore.substack.com. But with that, thank you all for joining us this evening in this wonderful Terran Tuesday. Have yourself a wonderful rest of your day. And don't forget to leave a comment if you're watching this on the replay. Hit that like button and share with your friends. With that, we are out of here. Ciao.
Good night.
Bye, everybody.